Sports.
I'm going to say something now that some may take as a hot take, and I don't really care because I know that I'm right.
A show so staggeringly awesome and unapologetically original, you won't know what hit you.
Do you ever just get down on your knees and thank God that you know me and have access to my dementia?
Featuring the man himself, Nick Costos.
For anyone else who says, oh, he's exaggerating, he's prisoner of the moment. First off, shut up. This is the National Football League. This is not the Big 12. It's not Pop Warner. An absolute disgrace. An atrocity. An affront. One of the most disgraceful performances that I have ever seen in 35 years watching National Football League football.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry, magnificent Football Monday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Costos on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. We've got so much to do today on this holiday Monday in the world of sports, and we will get to all of it. But first, welcome, dear listener. Welcome, dear viewer, to Westwood One Sports. And before we get into this show, You Better You Bet, with me, Nick Costos, a tip of the cap to my guy, Drake Toll, who did an awesome job this morning. First show on Westwood One Sports. And if you're watching the show, listening to the show right now, and you know who I am, and we'll get to all of that in a second, and you don't know Drake, you will love the Drake. You got to check out Drake, mornings 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern here on Westwood One Sports. And that show, executive produced by none other than legendary You Better You Bet associate producer, the great Addie Bates. So great job by Drake, great job by Addie in the maiden voyage this morning on Westwood One Sports. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I know that there's probably a pretty decent portion of the audience right now. You know who I am, and you know why I'm here. But if you don't, and you're hearing me for the first time, you're watching me for the first time, and you're wondering, who's this dude with the funny voice? Let me paraphrase Dolph Ziggler. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Nick Costos. Okay, that was more Paul Heyman than Dolph Ziggler. And if you are not familiar with me, here's what you need to know. To get familiar, I'm Nick Costos. And I love sports. And I love doing this show. So let's all love sports. You and me. Together. We're going to get to everything from Week 17 in the National Football League, including that Sunday night football thriller in San Francisco and what it means moving forward for the Bears and the 49ers. I'm going to tell you, dear listener, and you, dear viewer, why Steelers-Ravens coming up this Sunday night is for way more than just the AFC North Championship, and why the University of Michigan made chicken salad out of, well, you know, it's a family-friendly show. It's early in the morning, new time slot here for You Better You Bet. Why Michigan made chicken salad out of, with its head coaching hire of Kyle Whittingham. But we officially begin the Westwood One Sports era of You Better You Bet in the new time slot with the single most impactful game from Week 17 in the National Football League. A potential Super Bowl preview in cold and rainy Western New York in Buffalo. Final score, Eagles 13, Bills 12. As the Eagles hold on in the closing moments, the Bills with a game-tying touchdown with less than 10 seconds to play, and Sean McDermott opts to roll the dice, and we'll get to that decision coming up in a few. And Josh Allen misfires on the game-winning two-point play. Had Khalil Shakir open in the near corner of the end zone. He misses Shakir, and the Eagles hold on for a 13-12 victory that hands the AFC East Championship to Drake May and the New England Patriots. So much to get to from both teams. But to the winners go the spoils. So we will start with the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. And you know, in life, forget about sports for a second. Sports falls under the umbrella of life. In life, it's important to carve out a niche for yourself. For example, my 19-month-old daughter, she has cornered the market. She is number one on the power rankings in life right now. Her niche is that when I get home from work on Sundays, and I'm in the office all day on Sundays, I'm on the Westwood 1 broadcast, humble brag, for Sunday Night Football. And I get home as my daughter's about to fall asleep. And my wife is giving my daughter her bottle. And my wife is going to read her, probably a Biscuit Snow Day or some book about Elmo. And I walk into my daughter's room to kiss her on the head goodnight. Haven't seen her all day. Man, I'm excited. And she looks at me. And I'm not joking. She looks at me and she goes, "No, no, no," and points to the door because she wants mom to read her book and give her her bottle. I'm not going to, but she doesn't know that yet. That's my daughter's the best. 19 months old, Colette, absolutely love her. That's her niche, telling dad to beat it after dad comes home after a long day at work. I've got a friend, pretty good friend of mine. His niche back in the day was being the last person in the bar, drinking everybody under the table, and then stalking the streets of New York City like a well-meaning Jack the Ripper. That was his niche when we were in college. Unfortunately for him, he's now in his 40s, and that's still his niche. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, they have a very impressive niche, and that is winning games, not losing, winning football games, and in the process of winning and beating Super Bowl caliber teams, infuriating their entire fan base and anyone that's bet a cent on them to win the Super Bowl or achieve anything of any significance. Think about this. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Bills in Buffalo yesterday. 3-point dog in the game. They won the game. And all anyone wants to talk about coming out of the game is the negative. And I mean that literally and figuratively. Literally, the Eagles had a negative. -2 passing yards in the second half. And the Philadelphia Eagles, somehow, some way, have 3 halves of football this season where they have fewer than 5 passing yards in that half. Want to hear something even crazier? They are 3-0 in those games. They've won all 3, in which they've had 30 minutes of football played with less than 5 passing yards. A lot of the focus coming out of this game is going to go to the Eagles' offense and the, admittedly, pretty frustrating run, pass nature of this offense. It feels like we're watching football from 1978. No disrespect to the 1970s. But, can we give, Saquon Barkley for 1 yard? Saquon Barkley for 2 yards? Jalen Hurts throws it away on 3rd and 7, send out the punting unit. Way too much run, pass right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. So a lot of focus on the Eagles' offense. And the number that everyone wants to talk about is -2 for the passing yards in the second half of the game. But the most important number yesterday for the Philadelphia Eagles was not -2. The most important number for the Philadelphia Eagles was 0. As in 0 turnovers. Didn't turn the ball over. And forced a Bills turnover on a Josh Allen fumble and scored a touchdown, which is the difference in the game, off of that turnover. And the offense isn't what people should be preoccupied with off of yesterday's game. It will be on a lot of shows. It will be a lot of podcasts, a lot of columns, but it shouldn't be. No. The focus needs to be on the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Consider this for a moment. I am far from the only person that has said this. The National Football League this season feels like it's more wide open than it's been in quite some time. All the legitimate contenders, 100% of them, are flawed in some way. There's no one team that you can look at and say, this team's got it all. None of them. 0%. They've all got their issues. They've all got their warts. They've all got their sores. They've all got their boils. They've all got leprosy, apparently. When considering that every team is flawed, the single best unit in the National Football League in 2025 is the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Now, the San Francisco 49ers offense might have a case to be made after last night against the Chicago Bears. Houston's defense is awesome. Denver's defense is awesome. But the Philadelphia Eagles defense has the Super Bowl pedigree. Peaking at the right time. Allowed 30 points in the last 3 games. 30 points in the last 3 games. Now you can look and say, well, 2 of those games are the Raiders and the Commanders. One of them's Buffalo. And they allowed 30 points in the last 3 games. And you are starting to see some of the young defensive players on the defensive line, and we talked about this in the offseason, right? That the Eagles losing Milton Williams and losing Josh Sweat, that you would need to see some of these players step up. Jalix Hunt, monster yesterday. Moro Ojomo, monster yesterday. Jalen Phillips comes over in a trade from the Miami Dolphins. He's a beast. Jalen Carter back, and can you tell that he really makes a difference? Even blocked an extra point in the fourth quarter of this game. Another blocked kick from the Philadelphia Eagles and from Jalen Carter. And studs at all 3 levels, not just the defensive line. Reed Blankenship laying the lumber. Even Dory Jackson made some nice plays. Jihad Campbell making an appearance. Zach Baun, an absolute stud. And how about Cooper DeJean? Oh, man. He's everywhere. And he's apparently dating WWE diva John Cena's ex, Nikki Bella. And her theme song, You Can Look, But You Can't Touch. I'm going to leave that alone. And Vic Fangio coordinating this entire deal, the maestro of this symphony of defensive brilliance for the Philadelphia Eagles. An old school defensive effort from Philadelphia. I don't care about the offense stalling in the second half for Philadelphia. I don't. Because the Eagles' formula for victory, we saw it last year and we've seen it this year. Don't turn the football over, which they didn't do yesterday against Buffalo. Your stud skill position players will make enough plays to score enough points to win the game, and you take advantage of the opponent's mistakes. You play great defense, and you choke the game out. You boa constrictor the game. You squeeze the life out of your opponent. And that's what happened yesterday. And that's why I believe the Philadelphia Eagles will repeat and win Super Bowl 60, win another Super Bowl championship. Because I can trust Jalen Hurts to not turn the football over. And I know he's had a couple games this year where he has, most notably the Monday night game against the Los Angeles Chargers. I trust Jalen Hurts to not turn the football over. And we know this defense is otherworldly. And I get it. Not every defense is perfect. Even the 2000 Ravens had a rough game. The 85 Dolphins got nuked on Monday Night Football by Dan Marino, and the Dolphins 38-24. We were robbed of a potential Super Bowl there by the New England Patriots in the 1985 AFC Championship game, but that is a story for another time. Even the best defenses have clunkers. I trust the Eagles when it comes down to it. And they will get the Rams at home in the playoffs if they play, not in Los Angeles. And oh yeah, I haven't mentioned this yet. The future first ballot Hall of Fame right tackle is on his way back in Lane Johnson. You think that matters at all? So on the board right now, at our show sponsor BetMGM, the Philadelphia Eagles, plus 900 to win the Super Bowl. That is my preferred bet. And Super Bowl exactas, Eagles over your AFC team of choice. Maybe you think we'll get a Super Bowl rematch or a rematch from yesterday in Super Bowl 60. Eagles Bills, Eagles Broncos, Eagles Patriots again, Eagles, Texans, Eagles, Jaguars, whatever floats your boat, whatever tickles your fancy. Now, maybe you'll say you want to be a detractor. Maybe you will say, but Nick, if Josh Allen just completes that pass at the end of the game on the 2-point play to Khalil Shakir, and he had it, that is a play Josh Allen makes 99 out of 100 times. And he's not 100% healthy, and, he won't make excuses. But still, Josh Allen's got to make that play. Come on. Wide open throw to Khalil Shakir. Maybe you want to say, okay, Josh Allen completes that pass, and we're not having this conversation today about the Philadelphia Eagles. It would be fair for someone to say that. Here's my counter to that. The Buffalo Bills needed miracle catches from not like Andre Reed and James Lofton, not from Steph Diggs and Stevie Johnson. No. They needed miracle catches from Tyrell Shavers and Brandon Cooks and a questionable defensive pass interference call on Quinyon Mitchell to get them in any sort of contention to score 1 touchdown in this game, much less 2. And congratulations to Brandon Cooks, who became the first player in NFL history to record a reception of at least 30 yards in 5 consecutive decades. Congratulations to the ageless Brandon Cooks. So it took Shavers with the David Tyree style catch from Super Bowl 42. Brandon Cooks looking like Jermaine Kearse in Super Bowl 48 for the Seattle Seahawks against the New England Patriots. That's what it took to get the Bills in contention to tie this game or win the game. So forgive me if I'm not going to pile on the Eagles for that. And that takes us now to the Buffalo Bills. I mentioned that the NFL this season, all the contenders are deeply flawed. They are. And if that's true, then it means that the AFC is flawed. And believe you me, it is. Now, maybe the Ravens beat the Steelers on Sunday night. We'll get to that game at the top of next hour. And maybe the Ravens get hot. Feels unlikely based on the body of work this season. Every single team in the AFC tournament, you'll have holes that you can punch in them, right? Denver's got Bo Nix. Do you trust him in a big spot? Not that he can't do it, but we need to see it. I don't love the Patriots' defense. You can go down the line. Houston's offense. Jacksonville's defense. Talk about every team in the AFC and you can poke some holes in them. The Bills have the best quarterback. That needs to be said. Patrick Mahomes is not in the dance. And he's currently recuperating from an ACL tear. Joe Burrow is not in the dance. Maybe Lamar Jackson won't be in the dance. The Bills absolutely, unequivocally, unquestionably have QB1. Not just in the AFC, but in the entire, and he won't win MVP. Matthew Stafford probably will. And we'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about Rams-Falcons tonight. Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the league. And maybe that's enough to get Buffalo over the hump and get them to the Super Bowl. My concern with the Bills, their weapons absolutely stink. They stink. To the point that Brandon Cooks and Tyrell Shavers are stretching the field for them. It is a skill position group, a pass catcher group that is slower than Bowser and Mario Kart. They can't get going. And when they face a defense like the Eagles, or when they face the Houston Texans and Josh Allen got sacked 8 times in that game, or if they've got to play the Broncos in Denver, the Bills will have the best quarterback in those games. Absolutely. But I worry about their ability to score points in these games against a defense that can man up against slow receivers and just, hey, Josh Allen, be Superman. We're going to lose and Josh Allen's going to put on the cape and he's going to do his deal. So be it. But there are a couple teams in the AFC that are built to stop them. And then you've got a team like the Patriots. That, yeah, they lost to the Bills a couple weeks ago and blew a 21-0 first half lead, but they scored 31 points in the game. The Jaguars' offense is ascending. You can make the case that, especially if Baltimore gets in, that any team in the AFC could beat the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Bills could also beat any team in the AFC. And that is what is going to make this postseason coming up so fascinating. Last note for now on Buffalo. At the end of the game, Bills score to make it 13-12. Less than 10 seconds. And Sean McDermott decides to go for 2. I had no problem with that decision. Josh Allen's not healthy, and they don't control their own destiny to win the division. So it's like, let's get out of Dodge with the win and see what happens next week. And if you lose, like maybe they'll sit the starter. Who knows what they're going to do this week. I had no issue with McDermott's decision to go for 2. But because he did, and it didn't work, and because the Bills haven't gotten over the hump yet in the Sean McDermott, Josh Allen era, the bullseye is squarely on Sean McDermott as we get set to enter January and enter the postseason. No Mahomes, no Burrow, maybe no Lamar. No excuses for the Bills not to get to Super Bowl 60. They either get there or it is an absolute failure. We are just getting started here on this magnificent football Monday. You Better You Bet with me, Nick Costos, on Westwood One Sports. Coming up on the other side, we will recap last night's absolute thriller between the San Francisco 49ers and the Chicago Bears in the Bay Area. And I'm going to be a little negative about both teams moving forward. You Better You Bet. Nick Costos, Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
4 seconds left, second and goal. Here is Williams. He's got to throw it to the end zone. Clock has expired. Williams keeps the play alive. He's looking. He's got to get rid of it. Retreating, he throws. Incomplete. It's over. And the Niners have won.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth with the call last night on NBC as the Niners win a thriller against the Chicago Bears, 42-38. Talk about that game in a second, but I feel compelled to say right now, and Tyler Morales is with us, who's been on You Better You Bet since day one with yours truly, and he just wrote something in our show chat that I was going to say, and Tyler just wrote it, and now I know I have to say it. I was thinking during the game last night, this is not hyperbole, this is the truth, and I always am truthful with you, the audience. Mike Tirico, and I think Collinsworth is great, although I guess you can say kind of like a color commentator, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe you like Greg Olsen, like he's great too. I think Collinsworth is spectacular. I actually don't think it's a question that Mike Tirico is just the best at play-by-play. And that's no shade towards Joe Buck or Kevin Burkhardt, who are both spectacular. Mike Tirico is the best. Like, Kenny, can you get that call ready? Kenny Henderson, our engineer. I'd like, Kenny, just let me know in the chat when you have the call ready, the final call that you just played. I want everybody to listen to this again, like just how absolutely on top of this Mike Tirico is. This is kind of like a radio call on television, and in radio, obviously, you can't see, so you need more of the details. But it works in this instance because of the gravity of the moment and the significance of the play and how great a game this was. Take a listen to it again, the great Mike Tirico on the call.
4 seconds left, second and goal. Here is Williams. He's got to throw it to the end zone. Clock has expired. Williams keeps the play alive. He's looking. He's got to get rid of it. Retreating, he throws. Incomplete. It's over. And the Niners have won.
My favorite line in that is, like, time has expired, which you know watching because you can see it and you're aware as a football fan, but just adds to the significance here. Like, this is it. They either score and win or they don't and the Niners win. Just, like, let's be real here. We all love sports, right? I'm hoping you love sports if you're tuned into the show right now. You probably love betting on sports if you listen to me for any amount of time on the old version of You Better You Bet. We'll obviously still do a ton of sports betting here on this version of You Better You Bet. Last night is a 10 out of 10 sporting event. And I love the juxtaposition of Eagles-Bills ending and being one style of game, 13-12. And I thought Eagles-Bills kicked ass. I loved it. Like, yes, it was lower scoring, and yes, the Eagles offense did run, pass, and yes, the Bills offense was stuck in the mud for most of the game. That's a great defensive football game with super high stakes. I loved it. And then you go into Bears 49ers, and it's like pinball. Boom, 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 boom. Lights everywhere, scores everywhere, all the bells and whistles. 4 teams with designs on winning a championship. 2 dramatically different games. Both incredible. It's why sports are just the absolute best. As far as the game is concerned, I'm going to get really negative in a second about both teams that played last night. I'm going to be very negative about the Bears and the 49ers. And I don't really do it on purpose. I'm not trying to be a hater. I have won money as a result of the Bears this season, so I'm very into the Chicago Bears, NFC North champion Chicago Bears. But we have to be negative because we have to tell the truth. Before we do that, though, I want to be positive. Both offenses last night were absolutely electric. Both head coaches, and look, I'm 42 and pretty washed, like a young dad of a young child. I would never say this unless like Brock Purdy had said it first, but he said it after the Monday night win against the Colts last week. Both head coaches were in their bag. And Ben Johnson has already ascended to this like rarefied air of head coach / offensive play caller that I kind of believe like the only guys at this level right now are Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and Ben Johnson. Like, this has been a meteoric rise for Ben Johnson. And not that anyone questioned his play calling acumen when he's the offensive coordinator of the Lions, but You don't know how it's going to go. Like, now you're the head coach of the team in addition to being the offensive play caller. He has absolutely nailed it. They were both unbelievable last night, both Ben Johnson and Kyle Shanahan. As were both quarterbacks. Remember, just to say this, how stupid this was when the Niners beat the Rams in that Thursday night game and knocked us out of our big survivor pool, which sucked. We had the Rams in that one, and the Niners had no receivers and somehow managed to win the game. And the next day on that Football Friday, people are actually saying, like, sincerely, should Mac Jones be the starting quarterback of this team? Is there a quarterback controversy in San Francisco? Like, this is Steve Young backing up Joe Montana in the late 80s, the early 90s. Like, are you people nuts? Like, Mac Jones, good quarterback, great backup quarterback, excellent in the Shanahan system. He ain't Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's playing out of his mind right now. And you can question Brock Purdy, and you can say Brock doesn't have the arm strength that some of the other quarterbacks in the NFL do. He's not asked to do the same things that other quarterbacks are asked to do. And maybe that's true. Also, who cares? Because he's on this team with that play caller, with these weapons, and he executes what he needs to execute. He was great. And by the way, they did this last night without George Kittle, who is not just one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the league, but one of the best run-blocking tight ends in the league as well. Incredible performance by Brock Purdy and the Niners offense. And then there's Caleb Williams. And Caleb still has some moments where he will miss some throws, right? He still has moments where he misses some throws. You bet on this magnificent Football Monday. Nick Costos here with you on the new Westwood One Sports. Weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern. Absolutely love it. Caleb Williams will still have moments where he'll miss some really easy throws. And you're wondering, what the hell's this guy doing? But it's gotten to the point now, at this point in the season, where he will take one of those, like he will miss one of those throws, like the one to Devin Duvernay on the final drive. And he will make up for it with like 3 or 4 passes, like the one to Luther Burden for the touchdown in the first half, like flick of his wrist, like flat-footed, like 50 yards in the air, directly to Luther Burden, who looks like he avoided a serious injury, thankfully, because he's the best receiver on the Bears, not Rome Odunze, not DJ Moore, Luther Burden. Caleb makes these throws, and we've all watched Mahomes, and we watched Josh Allen, and if you watch prime Aaron Rodgers, I'm old enough to have watched Favre and Marino. Caleb Williams makes throws that almost like no quarterback in the history of the league can make. And yes, maybe that's slightly hyperbolic, but he's in that class. He was magnificent. And the Bears going to be a problem for a long time because you got Luther Burden, the second-round pick, monster last night, and you have Colston Loveland, the first-round pick at tight end, monster last night. And both did have drops on the final drive, which did not end well for the Bears, making it the only final drive of the year, basically, that hasn't ended well. But you can see where this is going. With the young quarterback, the young head coach, the young play caller, the young tight end, the young receiver. They are going to be good for a long-ass time. Now it's time to get a little negative. You know what? As I'm thinking about the game and I'm thinking about Luther Burden, one last positive note on the game. Because Luther Burden won me a fantasy football championship, so this is the last positive note. I wasn't going to mention this until I just thought about Burden. Like, if you started McCaffrey or Purdy or Caleb or Loveland or basically anyone from last night's game, you probably won your fantasy football championship. So we do need to give a tip of the cap to everyone in last night's game for bringing home the fantasy football bacon to all of us, including to me. Okay. Now we can do the negative. Both of these defenses, and this is not hyperbole, I'm not exaggerating right now. Both of these defenses are terrible. Now, they're not terrible in the way that like they would get lit up by like Brady Cook and the Jets or like Kenny Pickett and the Las Vegas Raiders. The defenses are not bad on that level, right? They're like passable NFL defenses. But when they have to play good offenses, they are going to get absolutely sliced and diced and shredded. San Francisco, with a win at home coming up on Saturday against Seattle, will be the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs, and you'll hear a lot of people say this over the course of the next few weeks. They will play every game at home through the Super Bowl, as Levi Stadium will host Super Bowl 60. Their defense is no good. They got worked a week ago today by Phillip Rivers and the Colts. 44-year-old Phillip Rivers put up a big game on the Niners defense. I don't trust the San Francisco 49ers defense. I don't. And consider this for a second, right? Micah Parsons goes out for the season for the Green Bay Packers with the torn ACL. And everyone buries the Packers right then and there. And I think correctly. This is not a pro-Green Bay case I'm about to make. Just like you lose that type of player, you're probably sunk because you're depending on that player to make the big play on Championship Sunday, on Super Bowl Sunday. The San Francisco 49ers lost Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. Like, those are two first ballot Hall of Fame caliber players. Like, the defense is not good enough. And I know Fred Warner maybe will be back on Championship Sunday or Super Bowl Sunday if they get there. I just don't think the defense is going to be good enough to get the 49ers over the hump. And this Saturday, oh man, this Saturday is going to be sick. Saturday night, for all the marbles, NFC West Championship, home field advantage in the NFC playoffs, the Niners and the Seahawks in the Bay Area. San Francisco right now, at our show sponsor, BetMGM, a 1.5-point favorite in the game. Seattle, minus 105 on the money line. San Francisco, minus 115. I'll take the Seahawks. I'll take Seattle in the game. I think Seattle's going to win. And I know that will likely be an unpopular thought and an unpopular bet and an unpopular opinion because Sam Darnold is capable of falling all over himself and stepping on rakes whenever he gets the opportunity to do it, especially in a big game. I understand. It's less of a pro Sam Darnold take and more of an I don't trust this Niners defense take. And I think Mike McDonald, even though he got shredded by Sean McVay and the Rams a couple weeks ago, I think he's got the goods to slow down this Niners offense. I don't trust San Fran. Seattle's more complete. The Rams are more complete. The Eagles are more complete than the 49ers. I'm not saying the Niners can't get to the Super Bowl. But in order to do it, they're going to have to win 38-35. And maybe they'll be up to 42-38 like they did last night against Chicago. Maybe they'll be up to the task. But, let's be crystal clear about that. The Niners are not winning playoff games 17-14. They're going to have to score 30 points to win, and maybe they can. But I'm skeptical about that. Last note on this game, on the Chicago Bears front. I think Chicago's a year early as far as being legit Super Bowl contender, legit Super Bowl threat. Even with as well as Caleb Williams has played, mostly this season, been nails down the stretch, the Iceman cometh, for as good as Ben Johnson has been. This defense needs way more juice. And I know I credited Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth, and they're magnificent. They're trying to turn Austin Booker into the modern-day Richard Dent. It's not happening. The Bears' defense is bad. That's it. It's not good. Period. It's not a good defense. Got annihilated last night by the San Francisco 49ers. And the Bears can be no worse than the 3 seed in the NFC playoffs, but I'll tell you, if you're a Chicago Bears fan or a Bears bettor, you'd love to be the 2, right? Because you get Green Bay in the first round. The walking wounded Green Bay Packers who you just beat a couple weeks ago. Standing in Chicago's way. Oh, man. This is one of those Week 18 games that is just going to be an absolute blast. And only Week 18 can give you a game like this. Because you get the eliminated from playoff contention Detroit Lions heading into Soldier Field. The Bears are a 2-point favorite in the game. And I actually do like the Bears a little bit in the game. I think they'll be able to score on the Lions defense. But if there were ever a team that is going to try and win a game in Week 18 that means nothing, it's Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. And it's not quite the same parallel as when they beat Aaron Rodgers last game in Green Bay to knock the Packers out of the playoffs on Sunday Night Football a couple years ago. It's not that, but they're going to relish this opportunity, and especially Dan Campbell looking to stick it to Ben Johnson. I do think the Bears will end up winning the game, but it's going to be far from a lock. I can't wait for it coming up on Sunday, Soldier Field. The Chicago Bears against the Detroit Lions. We'll take a quick break here. You Better You Bet, Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM. And on the other side, I got to tell you something. I'm pissed off today. As a sports fan, I'm furious. And there's another fan base that's furious in the NFL, and furious for the wrong reasons. I will explain to wrap up hour number 1. Coming up next here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
first of his NFL career. Efton Chisholm III.
There's a designed run. Here goes the quarterback for 6. Dart takes it in on a touchdown run of 12. And the Giants have gone on top.
Fox and CBS courtesy of the calls yesterday as the Giants win and the Jets lose. And the New York Football Giants yesterday lost by winning, and the New York Jets won by losing. I'll explain why in a moment, but first we got to tell you about our show sponsor, BetMGM, because BetMGM players will receive a Pro Football Same Game Parlay Boost token. I'm going to give you some bets for Monday Night Football, Rams and Falcons at the end of the show. To use the token, add a same-game parlay wager made up of bets from a pro football game. Tonight, that'll be Rams-Falcons. Add them to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win that wager that was made with the same-game parlay boost token, you will receive extra winnings in unrestricted bonus dollars at BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. Shout out to me, by the way. Gave out Efton Chisholm anytime touchdown yesterday on the various shows I do on Sunday morning, WFAN in New York, and nationally on Countdown to Kickoff. I received a lot of notes from people. They didn't even know who Efton Chisholm was. That's why I'm here. I'm doing the work, so you, the listener, and you, the viewer, don't have to. So I mentioned going to the last break that I am pissed off today as a sports fan. And if you are a longtime listener and viewer of the show, or even a short-time listener and viewer, I appreciate you. And if you're a new listener or viewer, I appreciate you also. You will get to know this about me, as the longtime audience knows. I'm a New York sports fan, right? So I love the Knicks, I love the Yankees, I like the New York Rangers. I don't really watch the regular season, but in the playoffs, man, hashtag LGR, I'm a huge Rangers fan. But my favorite team of all my teams, and has always been my favorite team of all my teams since I was a little kid. First year I watched football and sports, 1990. Giants win Super Bowl 25, January 27th, 1991, in Tampa, Florida, 20-19 over the Buffalo Bills. Not that I remember, or have the VHS cassette of Super Bowl 25 behind me in my setup here. I love the Giants. And I'm furious that they won this game yesterday. And that's how big a sports fan I am. And that's how you know I'm actually a great sports fan. And maybe you're driving around right now in your car, you're listening on an app, however you're consuming the show, and you're like, what's he talking about? You should be happy, right? Like the Giants won. No. It's a meaningless win for the Giants. Means nothing. All it did was probably make sure that they're not going to get the number 1 overall pick in the draft, which they need, not because they want to take, because I saw a report yesterday, Giants would consider Fernando Mendoza, please. Jackson Dart's going to be the week 1 starting quarterback next year. That's called, like, we're going to try and get teams to trade up if we get number 1, which they're not going to because they won yesterday. The roster sucks. Joe Shane should not come back for another year as the general manager. And you want the number 1 pick. So if a team wants Fernando Mendoza from Indiana or Dante Moore from Oregon, we'll get into college football next hour on the show. And then obviously a ton coming up tomorrow leading into the playoff quarterfinals, that you can sell that pick to the highest bidder and replenish what is objectively a bad roster. But no, the Giants fouled it up because they had to win the game yesterday. And I don't blame the players. I don't blame Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart says after the game, we don't care, we want to win. He should. But look at what the Raiders did before the game. Outright tanking. Placed Max Crosby, who's like, I'm healthy enough to play. They're like, well, you can win the game if you play, so we're sending you home. Send Brock Bowers home. They did it right, because they need a quarterback. Now, I don't think the Giants need a quarterback, but you want the number 1 pick so you can trade it and get more assets. The Giants are making an art form of this. Like, this is like the Sistine Chapel for the New York Giants, is winning games that they should lose. We saw it against the Washington, I think if they were the Redskins at this point, if they were the Commanders yet, or the football team, when they could have gotten Chase Young. Didn't. In the stupid Tommy DeVito chicken cutlet Italian hand motion game against the Green Bay Packers on Monday night. Wow, how much fun is that? Yeah, it was fun in the moment for 5 seconds. You know what would be more fun? if Drake May or Jaden Daniels were the quarterback of the Giants, but no, Tommy DeVito had to win that game. Last year against the Indianapolis Colts in Week 17. What was the point? And now against the Las Vegas Raiders. And congratulations to the Raiders. They're going to get Mendoza or more, whoever they want. I don't know who it is, but they're going to get their quarterback, move on from Geno Smith, probably fire Pete Carroll. Fresh slate. The Raiders did it right. Pride and poise. Commitment to excellence. Just lose, baby. And they won by losing. And so did the New York Jets. Now, I live in New York. I have a lot of Jets fan friends, and they are miserable because the Jets got blown out by the Patriots. And I can understand that. You get your brains beaten in by a team for 2 decades, and now, here's, I'm not saying he's the next Brady, obviously, but Drake May, he really good. Hey, who's the best young quarterback in the NFL? Answer. It's gonna be May. That's gotta suck for Jets fans. But guess what? By losing, you now have the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft, and as long as Brady Cook start there, they ain't winning a game. Also, the Colts lost yesterday. And the Colts will probably lose again on Sunday with Riley Leonard starting against Houston. That's going to be a top 15 pick. The Jets are going to have a top 3 and another pick in the top 15 and 3 first-rounders next year. They are going to control whichever draft they want in 26 or 27. And Jets fans are pissed because the Patriots beat them in a meaningless game at the end of December at MetLife Stadium? Give me a break. The New York Jets yesterday won by losing, and the New York Football Giants lost by winning. And the biggest winner of all, your Las Vegas Raiders. Hour 1 done, hour 2 for you. Coming up on the other side, we will start hour number 2. Nick Costos, You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports with the AFC North Championship game this Sunday night with the Ravens and the Steelers.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
The biggest names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Costos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening as you do every day to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Brought to you by BetMGM.
Hour number 2, Magnificent Football Monday. Nick Costos and you on the new Westwood One Sports. Really appreciate you joining me here on the show. Maiden voyage as I moved time slots. Was on weekdays 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Now weekdays 9 a.m. to noon Eastern here on the newly branded and newly named Westwood One Sports. You can catch the show in all the places you caught it before. And if you have not yet downloaded the Westwood One Sports app, I would very, very much encourage you to do so. I am biased. I will admit that. This network is going to absolutely kick ass. Absolutely going to rule. Our friend Drake Toll got us off to a great start this morning. Addie Bates doing a great job producing the show. We've got you covered here, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern. You better you bet. The lineup is going to be spectacular. Our friends Black and Abdallah next week. Jim Rome next week will join us. And our friends Brad Evans and Pat Boyle as well on BetMGM tonight. So a true honor for me to be here with Westwood One, continue on with Odyssey under the BetMGM umbrella. You can find me. I should probably promote this stuff. It is almost 2026 now. You can find me on all socials at the Costos, TheKostos. Like Twitter is kind of a hellscape. But I do, not a political comment, just saying, think we can take politics out and say it's not as good as it used to be. At the Costos, TheKostos, posting way more on Instagram. A lot less negativity on Instagram. At the Costos, TheKostos. Coming up here in hour number 2, we will get to the National Basketball Association, better known to you and yours as the NBA. And I'm going to tell everybody, you the listener, you the viewer, why the best rivalry in all of sports over the next decade will emanate from the NBA's Western Conference. And I will address, because I know a lot of people need it to happen, and have been asking me, will you do this? Will you address it? Oh, I will. I will address and discuss the debacle and the disgrace known as the NFC South. One of the worst divisions. I know what? We'll save the NFC South in a little bit. Pete Prisco of CBS Sports will join us coming up next hour. My good friend, longtime NFL writer and analyst for them. All the bets for tonight coming up at the end of the show, including side total and props for the Rams and the Falcons in Atlanta on Monday Night Football. But hour number 2 starts with the AFC North. The Ravens on Saturday night, with Tyler Huntley at quarterback, go into Lambeau and trample and abuse the Green Bay Packers 41-24 in what I think a lot of fantasy football players will forever refer to as the Derrick Henry game. Because Derrick Henry, like if you lost your fantasy football championship and you started Derrick Henry, maybe take up badminton or knitting or walk on the treadmill. Get a new hobby. Fantasy football's not for you. If you lost starting Derrick Henry in fantasy football in Week 17 with his 36 carries for 216 yards and 4 touchdowns. Ravens 41, Packers 24. And then yesterday, and I bet the Browns in the game. I did bet Cleveland yesterday, plus 4.5. Talked about it last week in the old version of You Better You Bet. I thought the Browns would keep the game close. I did not think the Steelers were going to lose. Final score, Browns 10, Steelers 6. Setting up, and this is, sports are not rigged, but I'll tell you what, if they were, whoever rigged this one deserves a raise, because this is going to be awesome. Sunday Night Football this week. Game 272 out of 272. Ravens and Steelers in Pittsburgh for the AFC North Championship. And Baltimore, a 3.5-point road favorite right now at BetMGM, which obviously is expressing optimism in Lamar Jackson playing in the game. And Lamar missed Saturday night's game in Lambeau against the Packers. The total in the game, a robust, or not so much. I don't think this is going to be Niners-Bears from last night. The total in the game is 41.5. And just on the Baltimore Ravens, before we get to the Steelers and whatever the hell that was yesterday in Cleveland against the Browns, this reminds me, if you're a Ravens fan, or if I have some parlays from before the season tied in with Ravens winning the AFC North, that I felt like at various points this season were DED dead and DUN done. You bet the Ravens to win the division. You have Ravens to win the AFC, Ravens to win the Super Bowl. You probably had the same experience as me yesterday, or even like recently, right? And towards the end of the game, Steelers-Browns, as Rodgers floats that final pass to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, like this is how the Steelers season may end, not with the bang, not with a whimper, but with MVS. I don't get it. It's like my favorite episode of Game of Thrones, the Battle of the Bastards, right? With Ramsay Bolton against Jon Snow, which coincidentally, just to say this, because I love sports, aired the same night as the greatest sporting event of my lifetime, Game 7, Cavs-Warriors in 2016. Final score, Cavs 93, Warriors 89. Shout out to Kyrie Irving with the double bang three-pointer to put the Cavs up by 3. And yes, I did have Cleveland to win that series. Thank you very much. In that episode, Battle of the Bastards, and there's the famous meme, right, of Jon Snow pulls out the sword, and he's by himself as an army of horses and men riding those horses are riding towards him. And all of a sudden, the Knights of the Vale come out of nowhere, led by Littlefinger and Sansa. This is really nerdy. Just follow along for a second. And save Jon Snow at the last second. This is what it felt like. Like the Ravens were staring the end of a season and, potentially, the end of an era. Right in the eye. Derrick Henry on Saturday. I don't know if I would call him Littlefinger or Sansa, but you kind of get the idea. And then the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. Give the Ravens a new lease on life, and they are now favored to go to the postseason and win the AFC North. And I think they're going to. I think the Ravens are going to win on Sunday night. I think Lamar Jackson's going to play. It's Monday. We obviously have a lot of time before the game. No, we haven't seen an injury report yet. We won't until Wednesday on this holiday week. I think the Ravens are going to win the game. The Pittsburgh Steelers right now on offense have zero juice. None. Like, I'm holding up right now a water bottle. It's not juice, but you get here's a water bottle. Like, if you dumped all the water out of the bottle, that would be the Pittsburgh Steelers offense right now. They got nothing. Zero. Without DK Metcalf. And it is a poorly constructed roster that we've gotten to this point, and you can say that taking one player out of the equation, not the quarterback, screws everything up. And I can't help but think, and yes, DK Metcalf has got to control himself. There's no question. You can't be swinging at fans. You can't do that. And look, I guess he deserved the suspension, right? As much as I hate that it happened, you can't take a swing at a fan. That loser Lions fan, people are like defending this guy. Metcalf placed a complaint against him last year. He should not have been allowed back in the stadium. Like this idiot with his stupid press conference in a folding chair with his backwards hat looking like a jackass, like could swing who wins a division championship this year in the NFL. And yes, Metcalf needs to control himself. Yes. Also, that fan never should have been there to begin with. And when we get to the finish line of all of this in the AFC North, like we may look back in that and say, like that's what cost the Steelers a division championship and a playoff berth in what could be the great Aaron Rodgers final season. And that sucks to say. You'd much rather them lose or win on the field of their own merit than whatever the hell that was. They just got no juice without DK Metcalf. Like you don't have that field stretcher. Like here's MVS. Like he's not. Metcalf's a physical specimen. You can get away with this dink and dunk Arthur Smith offense using the running backs and the tight ends if you have a legit alien field stretcher. They don't have it now. They don't have it. And if you're the Baltimore Ravens coming up on Sunday night, why wouldn't the game plan be, and Jason Garrett, I thought nailed it last night on the Sunday Night Football broadcast, why wouldn't you just hand it to Derrick Henry 40 times, not put the ball in harm's way, Punt it to the Steelers if you have to. How are they scoring? How's it happening? How are the Pittsburgh Steelers scoring points in this game? I want to know. Like, great. Like, here's a ton of Jalen Warren and a ton of Kenny Gainwell. Like we all know it's coming. Like, Baltimore knows it's coming. I'm not saying the Ravens are going to smoke them. I also don't even know if I want to bet Baltimore at -3 or better. It feels like Ravens by 3 is probably the most likely outcome. In fact, at 3.5, I might consider betting Pittsburgh because I think the game will be close, but I don't think Pittsburgh's going to win the game. I do not think that. Because when it comes down to it, I don't think they're going to be able to score enough points. So I think the Ravens are going to be a playoff team. You better you bet. Magnificent Football Monday, Westwood One Sports. Your boy Nick Costos here with you. Follow me on all socials at the Costos. Day 1, show 1, new time slot, Westwood One Sports. And if and when the Ravens get to the tournament, they're in the AFC playoffs, there will be a lot of people, and like we'll probably talk about it on this show, that will at least have to have the conversation. Can the Ravens make a serious run here? The favorite before the season. A lot of people really like them. I didn't, because I don't trust the combo of Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. We'll get to them in a second. But we'll have to have that conversation. And if you're a Bills fan, a Bills better. A Broncos fan, a Broncos better. A Patriots fan, a Patriots better. A Chargers fan, a Chargers better. A Jaguars fan, a Jaguars better. A Texans fan, a Texans better. You better be rooting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not that the Ravens will go on a run, but I think we know the Steelers probably can't. And the Ravens, at least if you squint a little bit, you can maybe see it. Like one of those stupid things from when I was a kid where you have to like stare at like this 3D thing and then like you'd see like a teacup. I never got it. Probably says something about me. Like if you stare long enough, you can see it there for the Baltimore Ravens. You can actually see it for the Ravens. I don't think you can see it for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Ravens loom as a potential disruptor here in the AFC playoffs. And if you're the 5 seed, like normally you get like the 5 seed in the NFC is going to get to play Tampa or Carolina. It's not a reward in the AFC having to go to Baltimore to play a Ravens team that has at least a theoretical ceiling and theoretical upside. I started the show and I teased something about this game that I think is really fascinating. That I think that Ravens Steelers on Sunday night, and again, like if the point spread keeps going up, I'm going to consider betting Pittsburgh. And then we can have a conversation about what to do with the Ravens in the playoffs when and if they get there. But what I said was I think this game is about more than just the AFC North title. And because I'm a big wrestling fan, and if you're a new listener and viewer of the show, you'll get to know that about me. It makes me think about WrestleMania 7, which was my first WrestleMania, 1991, in March of 91. Ultimate Warrior career-ending match against the Macho Man Randy Savage. And Warrior takes off his jacket, and Savage at the Royal Rumble had cost the Warrior the championship, losing to Sergeant Slaughter. Hits him between the eyes with the scepter in a famous moment at the Royal Rumble, right? And Warrior takes off his jacket, and airbrushed on his tights is the then WWF Championship, and it says, means much more than this, with the career on the line. So yeah, like the AFC North Championship is on the line. But I think the game can mean more than that on Sunday night. Last week, and I will forgive you, the listener, and you, the viewer. I love you. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. I will forgive you if you missed this last week. And also, like, that's kind of like this is what we're here for, to inform you about this stuff. Because last week's Christmas. Mike Preston, who's covered the Ravens for the Baltimore Sun, wrote a pretty incendiary column, which John Harbaugh denied, which is fine. What's he going to say? It's true. He's not going to say that, right? Basically saying that there is a disconnect between Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh and the Ravens. And I'm paraphrasing the column, and it's very well. I would encourage people to check it out. Mike Preston of the Baltimore Sun. That Lamar kind of needs to grow up a little bit. Not that he's a bad guy, but that he's got to like improve, like he's got to be more of a professional. If the Ravens lose on Sunday night, they lose in the first rounds of the playoffs, right? This will be another year of Lamar Jackson's prime in which the Ravens have failed to even get to the Super Bowl. Forget about, like, they've only been to one conference championship game to even get to the Super Bowl, right? And now there's a reported disconnect. between the coach and quarterback. If you're the Baltimore Ravens and you have a decision to make, right? And that's what it comes to. And you think, hey, like we let Mike McDonald walk out the door. He went to Seattle. That was a mistake. We need to try something new here. This isn't getting it done. It's reached its expiration. Not that John Harbaugh is not a great coach. He is. And I'd love for my Giants to hire him. But the expiration date has possibly been reached here on John Harbaugh as Ravens head coach. Who are you going to pick? The coach or the multiple-time MVP quarterback in his prime? Is it even a question? Like, you're taking Lamar Jackson, and if you think otherwise, like, you're lost. And I don't even say that meanly. Just like, you don't understand how this works. I'm not trying to be a jerk. The Ravens will never choose John Harbaugh over Lamar Jackson. They're going to take the two-time MVP quarterback and hope that a new coach can get them over the hump. So if the Ravens lose on Sunday night, and I said I think they're going to win. Small point spread. They've stunk this year at many points. Mike Tomlin, it feels like a game that maybe, I don't think they will, but could pull out of their derrieres, right? If the Ravens lose, does John Harbaugh lose his job? And are other teams lined up to then hire him? Interesting food for thought. Another delicious plate of food for thought. What happens if the Pittsburgh Steelers lose this game? ESPN's Adam Schefter recently put out there that the Steelers are not firing Mike Tomlin. Like, they will not move on from Mike Tomlin. And Adam Schefter is right like 99.9% of the time. So I'm sure he's right about that. I think a loss here against Baltimore, following an inexplicable loss in Cleveland, pushes Mike Tomlin to the brink. And maybe he keeps his job, but I mean, now you've got to let him pick another quarterback. We'll get to Rodgers in a second. I don't know how this is going to go. It is, even without DK Metcalf, an unforgivable loss for the Steelers yesterday. And I bet Cleveland in the game. I felt like the game was going to be close. And I know TJ Watt didn't play as he recovers from the lung injury, and we obviously hope TJ Watt gets well. That's real life stuff. The Steelers can't lose that game. There's not the BCS. They don't have to win by 50, but you can't lose like that. And then get clowned by Myles Garrett after the game, saying that the Steelers were more concerned with not letting Myles Garrett get the sack record than winning the game. I think what Myles Garrett needs to consider is that the two things are probably related. You know, he's the best defensive player in the league. Like, obviously, you don't want him to wreck the game. That helps you win. Myles Garrett, maybe the modern-day Lawrence Taylor, a little out there. Like when he said, I want to win. Winning's the most important thing. And then signed a big money deal to remain in Cleveland. Yeah, at least he's great on the field, Myles Garrett. A little questionable, some of the stuff he says often, but obviously an absolute stud. Unforgivable loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And now, Sunday night, if the Steelers lose, to you, the listener, you, the viewer, do you think it would be Aaron Rodgers' last game? If I were a betting man, I am. More than 50% he's done? Maybe not like 60, 55%, more than 50%. I think Rodgers is probably done. Not definitely, but my guess would be he retires. They are, right now, more than a 3-point underdog in the game. The betting market says they are likely to lose this game. So we, as sports fans and bettors, we've been betting on and against Aaron Rodgers for 2 decades now. This could be the last chance we get to see what is, in my opinion, one of the 7 best quarterbacks of my lifetime. This could be his last game. And I've said this many times on my shows. I am not here to convince anyone to like Aaron Rodgers if you don't like him. I like him. I find him interesting, and I've loved watching him on the field. But look, if you disagree with some of the stuff he says, whatever. Like, this is a sports show, right? But just to say, like, I get it if you, the listener, you, the viewer, if you don't like him. Remove personal feelings for a moment, right? You can't deny the guy's an all-time great. And if this is it, if Sunday night is it, and he goes out because he doesn't have DK Metcalf, like, what an absolute shame this would be. Just my opinion. You can disagree with that. That's the beauty of all of this. Darnell Washington also not going to play in the game for Pittsburgh with a broken arm, limiting what Arthur Smith wants to do with multiple tight end sets. So there we go. Ravens Steelers Sunday night for the AFC North Championship and potentially the short-term fate of both franchises on the line. Not bad for game 272 of 272. We'll take a quick break, and coming up next, I will do what I have promised to do. I don't want to do it, but I am here to serve you, the listener, and you, the viewer. I will discuss the NFC South. We'll get to the Panthers, we'll get to the Bucks, and the Atlanta Falcons maybe holding the key to all of it, and a very interesting chase for Offensive Rookie of the Year coming up next here. You Better You Bet, Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
it's about executing. And the fact that we're still in it, that should give us the positivity we need to rebound from this, hit the reset button. Like Todd said, erase it. It's about us executing. Listen, to have a chance at home to get into the playoffs and win the division, wouldn't have it any other way.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Nick Costos here with you. And that was the voice of Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Baker Mayfield, who said at the end of his press conference yesterday, following the Bucs loss to Quinn Ewers and the Dolphins. Quinn Ewers couldn't beat Ohio State last year in the college football playoff. Beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday. That Baker Mayfield wouldn't have it any other way. Maybe you're of a certain age, you the person watching, you the person listening. I used to love the Maury Povich show. And when they would do like the paternity test and the lie detector, and Maury would always have the great lead up to, and the lie detector determined that that was a lie. Well, we have the lie detector result from Baker Mayfield. He's lying. Wouldn't have it any other way. You sure about that, Baker? Because if I were Baker Mayfield, I would absolutely want it another way. This division was over. It's done. Tampa had it. Absolutely had it. The Bucs, since October. Remember October? Pumpkin spice, whatever. Halloween. All that jazz. Dodgers and Blue Jays. Remember that? Long time ago, right? Feels that way. Remember when Baker Mayfield was one of the front runners to win NFL Most Valuable Player? Long time ago, right? The Bucs have won one game since October. Like with Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto and the LA Dodgers trying to win back-to-back World Series, the Bucs have won one game since then. 1-7 in their last 8. And can somehow, some way still win this train wreck of a division coming up this weekend, this Saturday against Carolina. Well, maybe not even. And we'll get to the Atlanta Falcons part of this in just a moment. So Baker, yes, they're a home favorite coming up this weekend. And yes, the betting market says they're more likely to win and be division champs than Carolina. But I mean, this is how you drew it up? Come on, give me a break here. I hate this division. And the NFC South has been the butt of jokes, not every year. And look, there have been sometimes divisions take turns. Like the AFC South stinks sometimes. We had the NFC West be terrible a couple times. Now the NFC West an absolute juggernaut. This is one of the most depressing divisions in recent memory. It just is. Like with Tampa, a team that objectively is pretty talented, at least on the offensive side of the ball, can't win a game. And it feels like the wheels have come off on Tampa. It doesn't feel like it. The wheels have come off. And then you have the Carolina Panthers. We'll get to Carolina in a second. But just on Tampa, I never felt like Tampa was any great shakes. And that's not to pat myself on the back. I feel like a lot of people agreed with that. Even when the Bucs were winning all those games at the beginning of the year, and they were the cardiac Bucs, and Baker's pulling it out of thin air at the end, and he's one of the MVP frontrunners. I said it on this show in another time slot, but I did say it. Baker ain't winning MVP because the Bucs aren't that good. They're not going to win enough games. I am far from the only person that said that. So it's not like it was an original take by me, but I did think it was an obvious one. And they've proven that to be the case. But I never felt like this is what it was going to be. That they'd be 7-9 heading into week 18. This is like a bridge too far. To lose to Quinn Ewers, Mike McDaniel, and the Dolphins, and I actually mean this. This is not the setup to a joke. I actually don't mean disrespect with this. To Miami, to Mike McDaniel and Quinn Ewers, if you're Tampa, you can't lose that game. You're almost a 5.5, a 6-point road favorite. You have to win that game against the Dolphins team that looked like it was letting go of the rope with Ewers in and Tua to the bench, got blown out by the Bengals the week before, and then they beat you with everything in front of you, and the Buccaneers lose the game. And it's the way they're losing. They've got... And is he? And I got him in some fantasy leagues. Disappearing down the stretch. 3 catches for 20 yards yesterday for Tampa? What? And look, I like Jalen McMillan as much as the next guy. We talked about him last year. Mid-round pick out of Washington, catching passes from Michael Penix, coached by Kalen DeBoer in the national title game against Michigan. We'll get to Michigan and Kyle Whittingham next hour. Where's Emeka Egbuka? And maybe it's just a case of Dave Canales 2 years ago does such a good job with Baker in the offense, he gets the Panthers head coaching job. And then last year, Liam Cohen does such a good job with Tampa in the offense and Baker Mayfield, he gets the Jaguars coaching job. Lightning struck twice, not going to strike 3 times. And I'm not saying Bucs offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard is terrible. I'm not saying that. But this has been brutal and inexplicable for the Bucs offense. And Baker Mayfield's not playing well. He's not. He's not playing well. And despite that, to Baker's point, Tampa is almost a 3.5-point home favorite on Saturday in what will likely be, and we'll get to the Falcons part in a second, the NFC South Championship game. Tampa -3, -115, which means we may be headed to 3.5. The total in the game is 43.5. And it looks like it's going up to 44. One of the key numbers that we talk about if you bet totals in the NFL. Think about how the scoring of the NFL works, right? I do have a strong betting opinion on the game. I'll give it to you in a second, but just on Carolina. Strike out 4 times. And you get blown out by the Buffalo Bills. Were stuffed in a locker yesterday by the Seattle Seahawks. And I bet Carolina in the game. And I thought pretty early on this one's probably going to be a loser, even though the game was close early and Sam Darnold was doing Sam Darnold things. Seahawks win the game 27-10, setting up the NFC West Championship game on Saturday, number 1 seed in the NFC game on Saturday, Seattle at San Francisco. I told you earlier in the show I like Seattle in that game. The Panthers manage less than 140 yards of total offense against Seattle. Yet absolutely nothing going on the ground or in the air with Rico Dowdle or Chuba Hubbard. Tet McMillan, Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette, the tight ends, nowhere to be found. A miserable, miserable, miserable effort from the Carolina Panthers. But the Panthers we didn't expect to be here. So they get credit despite the miserable performance yesterday. Tampa gets nothing but criticism for being in this position. Tampa should not be in the spot, and the Bucs are. And I'll tell you what, I don't need to wait until, I actually think I do need to wait just because I want a better number. I don't want to wait for a better number. I do want to wait for a better number. I do. It looks like this point spread's going to go to Tampa -3.5. And if and when it gets there, do you want to trust? I'm not saying the Bucs can't win by 1 million, and Baker can't get hot, and Evans has a huge game, and Egbuka emerges from witness protection. I'm not saying that can't happen. It's one thing to say it, right? To say, I think Tampa's going to explode in this game, and Baker's going to play better, and Tampa wins by margin. But we always ask this question on this show. We're presented by BetMGM, right? And I would encourage people to view things through this lens, even if you don't bet. And that's okay. This is a show for everybody, right? You can think Tampa's going to win by 7, win by 10, whatever. Would you bet on it? Would you bet on it? Would you go to BetMGM, download the BetMGM app, visit BetMGM.com. That was a shameless promotion. Would you do that and put 1 cent of your hard-earned money, or maybe it's not hard-earned, whatever, money is money, on Tampa Bay minus 3.5, if and when it gets there? I wouldn't. I'll bet the Carolina Panthers. And I'll feel way better about it than I would laying the points with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think Tampa's better than Carolina. The Bucs are, pun intended here, given the Buccaneers, they're a rudderless ship at this point. At least Carolina knows what it is. And, an overachieving team that's scrappy and takes big swings against better competition. Tampa, I think we know what they are, and it's just a bad football team at this point. An underachieving football team. Make me pick. Make me bet. I will. And I'll wait for 3.5, and I'll take the points with the Carolina Panthers, and I'll probably back it up with the Carolina money line bet as well. And I'll tell you, I don't think either team, Carolina or Tampa, will win its first-round playoff game in the 4-5 matchup against whoever, like the juggernaut team is, the 13-win team that doesn't get a division championship. But I think Carolina's got a better chance of winning that game than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do. You bet on this Monday. Nick Costos with you, Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM. You can follow me on all socials at the Costos, TheKostos. I mentioned Emeka Egbuka and Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he was once upon a time the front runner for that award. I do think this provides us an opportunity here, while we're on the subject of a miserable division, the NFC South, to talk about what I actually believe maybe is not the best team, although you can argue they are at this point, but certainly the most fun and the most exciting team in the division. And I can't believe I'm saying this because I didn't think it would be the case at the start of the year or even 2 months ago or even 6 weeks ago. It's undeniably true. The most exciting team right now in the NFC South, the 6-10 New Orleans Saints. Winners of 4 straight games, beat the Titans by 8 yesterday in Tennessee. Their coverings, they've covered 4 straight spreads, and they've won all these games. And Tyler Shuck, the 40th overall pick in the draft, outplayed the number 1 overall pick in the draft yesterday, Cam Ward, and looks like a keeper. Big time for New Orleans. And Kellen Moore's done an unbelievable job as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. And there will be some that will say, well, why didn't they start Tyler Shuck from the beginning? Why did they waste time with Spencer Rattler? I have no problem with it. They're not ready for prime time. Better draft pick heading into next year. I feel if you're a Saints fan, you got to feel awesome right now. If you had any Saints stuff in the preseason, you're feeling pretty good about that. An Offensive Rookie of the Year looks like will come down to Panthers receiver Tet McMillan and New Orleans Saints quarterback Tyler Shuck. Where the betting market at BetMGM right now has this, basically close to even. Tet minus 110, Shuck plus 125. If Tet plays well and the Panthers win on Saturday, Tet's going to win. Like, that's how this is going to go. But if you're out there listening or watching, and you think Tampa's going to win, and maybe Tet doesn't have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and it's not a showcase performance, and you think Shuck can go out there and light up the Falcons' defense next Sunday, Shuck's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, despite starting half the year, which is both a credit to him and an insult to how the rest of this rookie class has been offensively. Carson Schweisinger of Cleveland has been unbelievable. He'll be a deserved defensive rookie winner. But the offensive rookie candidates have not been great. That Travion Henderson's up there on the board. If you're a fantasy football player, you know how frustrating that's been this year with New England. So wanted to make sure we credited and praised Tyler Shuck and Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints, the actual most fun and most exciting team in the NFC South. And I've talked about the Falcons a couple times in this segment. And you might be wondering, like, why do we keep bringing up Atlanta as far as the NFC South is concerned? And a terrible season for the Falcons, a miserable season for Atlanta. Falcons don't even have their first-round pick. The Rams do, by virtue of the James Pierce deal last year in the first round, with Atlanta trading back into the first round to take Pierce, who's been a good player. Probably should have just taken Pierce instead of Jalen Walker and kept next year's first-round pick, but that's just me. Lost season for Atlanta, no question. If the Falcons win tonight against the Rams, and they're a big dog, and I have a bet in that game, I'll share it at the end of the show, and the Falcons beat the Saints next week, Carolina wins the division. It makes like a convoluted division tiebreakers. So if Atlanta wins tonight, Tampa doesn't even win the division next Saturday. They'll have to wait to see what the Falcons do against the Saints. And I think that right there is the perfect encapsulation. That right there is the perfect rotten cherry to go on top of this lousy, no good, rotten Sunday known as the 2025 NFC South. Take a quick break. Coming up next, we'll talk some NBA, because I love the NBA. And we're always going to talk NBA here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Love the slate on Christmas, and we got some storylines coming out of the weekend as well. I'm going to tell everybody why the best rivalry in sports will emanate from the Western Conference over the next decade, and lay the groundwork for a potential royal exit in Los Angeles. You Better You Bet with me, Nick Costos, on Westwood One Sports returns right after this.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
talk about what it is that San Antonio does so well that, kind of takes you guys out of your game?
There's this guy on their team that's 7'5" and takes up a lot of space on the court.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
A legitimate laugh out loud quote from Oklahoma City Thunder star Jalen Williams after the Spurs beat the Thunder for the third time in 12 days in 3 different cities. This is like the Lloyd classic, not like Lloyd from Entourage. Lloyd! R&B singer Lloyd, like the song Girls Around the World. This is like beating the Thunder, beat the all around the world, beat the Thunder all around the world. This goes out to girls all around the world. Spurs beat the Thunder on Christmas. Third time they beat the Thunder in 12 days. Couple good quotes coming out of that game from Oklahoma City. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Basically, hey, does this mean the Spurs are better than you? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I'm paraphrasing his answer. Yes, it does mean that, at least for now. And then you have that great Jalen Williams quote. Hey, why do you have so much trouble with the Spurs? Well, they have this guy, and he's 7'5", and you can't teach that. Victor Wembanyama's pretty good, and coming off the bench in those games. Scary hours for the rest of the NBA with the San Antonio Spurs. And I think right now, for sports fans, and for sports bettors also, because we may very well get this matchup in the NBA postseason. And I said it, and now the betting market has adjusted big time. The Spurs were always better than the Lakers. We'll get to the Lakers in a little bit. But San Antonio on this run that they've been on, and they did lose this weekend. They lost the last game they played. San Antonio is now 23-8, which is the second best record in the Western Conference, behind obviously Oklahoma City, but only 3.5 games back of the Thunder now. The Thunder have now lost 5 games this regular season and are now on track for a pedestrian, nice 69 wins, as opposed to setting the NBA all-time wins mark at 74. And this is really cool. Well, maybe not so for me, because I'm going to win some of my Thunder live adjusted win totals, not all of them. I don't know if they're going to get to 70 now, almost single-handedly, thanks to the San Antonio Spurs. But this is really exciting for sports fans and sports bettors, but really for sports fans. This is going to be your next great rivalry. Not just in the NBA, all of sports. Thunder and the Spurs. And I sincerely am not trying to ignore or gloss over Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, and Jokic with he does things on a nightly basis, like the game on Christmas. He's insane. He's the best player in the world. I'm not trying to gloss over the Nuggets. They can obviously win the title this year, not impossible. Took the Thunder to 7 last year in the second round. I'm not even trying to gloss over the Houston Rockets, who I think need to get a point guard. I don't know if Amen Thompson or Reed Shepard's the answer at the 1 with Fred VanVleet's injury. I'm not trying to gloss over Houston. But it does feel like these are the teams with the highest ceilings right now, which doesn't mean they're going to win. It could be Denver, could be Houston, it could even be my Knicks. But this is where it's at right now, man. 2 turntables and a microphone. SGA, Wemby, Thunder, and Spurs. And yes, Jalen Williams was right to say that Victor Wembanyama, the 7'5", you can't teach that alien, is the reason why the Spurs give the Thunder so much trouble. But he left something very important out. Because it's not just Victor Wembanyama. You better you bet on this Monday. Nick Costos here with you. Westwood One Sports presented by BetMGM. It's not, and I'm on all socials at the Costos, TheKostos. It's not just Victor Wembanyama. It's this 3-headed monster at guard that is long and physical and young and awesome. De'Aaron Fox. Stephon Castle, the reigning rookie of the year, and Dylan Harper. They give the Thunder fits. And what's going to happen, and I want to set the table for this if they play in the postseason. And this is really like any team that plays the Spurs. Here's Victor Wembanyama. He's 7'5", and you can't teach that. You're going to have to make your 3-pointers. I'm going to use that line so much for Wemby now. I'm so happy about this, the Enzo Amore line. And he's 7 foot tall, and he's a certified G and a bona fide stud. You're going to have to make your threes. The Thunder shot 25% on Christmas Day. If they shoot 40%, do they win? Food for thought. if and when we see them, and maybe we'll see them play in the postseason. Just something to think about. As for the Los Angeles Lakers, we're big time in the news right now. So they get thumped on Christmas Day by the Rockets, 119-96, and look disinterested. LeBron looks disinterested, and Luka's doing that thing where he's bitching and moaning and complaining about the officials with every single call that's made. It's like, enough, dude. Like, please, like, just play. And I'm not trying to be a hardo or like a 42-year-old boomer. It's just like, it has to get on everyone's nerves, right? While acknowledging he's unbelievable. JJ Redick goes nuclear after the game. I'm not doing this for another 53 games. Saturday's practice is going to be uncomfortable. DeAndre Ayton was like, you all believe that it's going to be uncomfortable? Apparently they had a team meeting and aired everything out, and it worked. Because they slammed the Kings, stuffed the Kings in a locker last night, 125-101. Defense was really good for the Lakers. And LeBron said like that was the key. Like the effort was there. Also, let's call a spade a spade. The Lakers are not really that good. I'm not trying to be a hater. If you're a Lakers fan, sincerely, I'm not trying to hate, but ask yourself this question. You, the big Lakers fan, you, the listener, you, the viewer. Do you legitimately think the Lakers are as good as the Thunder, the Spurs, the Rockets, the Nuggets? Austin Reeves has the calf injury, out for a month. Do you really think they're going to contend seriously in the West? 18-1 to win the title, 12-1 to win the West? Please. Yeah, like, here's what I want you to do. Instead of spending your money on that, like, use that money as toilet paper instead. Because, inflation's hitting us all. You can save some money if you'd like, not buy the toilet paper. Just instead of betting the Lakers, do that instead. And I'll close with this. And it's a heavy point to close on in a short amount of time, but we'll wait for some more smoke before we call it a fire. LeBron looks disinterested. It's Luka's team, and it's going to be Austin Reeves' team soon also when he signs the max this summer. LeBron's got a no-trade clause. Lakers can't win. Don't be shocked when and if LeBron waives that no-trade clause and asks for a move prior to the deadline. Final hour, Power Hour coming up next. We will start talking National Football League with my friend Pete Prisco from CBS Sports.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Bring it up, Kenny. Final hour. Power hour. You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Costos, our amazing crew, and of course, you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. We want everyone watching the show right now on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, we're going to have way more interaction on video platforms than we have in the past. So let us know in the YouTube chat if you like bets for tonight, if you like what we're talking about, agree, disagree. Mike Brown will put it on the screen. We will have interactive segments here on the show that we very much look forward to. A lot of fun stuff planned moving forward here. You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. We will get to, later this hour, Michigan's hire of Kyle Whittingham and why I feel like Michigan upgraded big time accidentally at head coach with the hire of Kyle Whittingham. We will get to some breaking news out of Ohio State ahead of the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve against Miami, and I do have a strong bet in that game. All our bets for tonight will close the show, including side total and props, Monday Night Football with the Rams and the Falcons in Atlanta. But this is awesome because, this guy has been on the show before. And there could be, and I don't even really want to compliment him that much because he gets a big head. And Pete, I think, is the best option to be the first guest of You Better You Bet here on Westwood One Sports. Longtime NFL writer, analyst at CBS, Pete Prisco, on Twitter at PriscoCBS. You can watch him on CBS Sports HQ, read him on CBSSports.com. My friend, welcome back to the show. How was Christmas?
It was nice. And you? I bet the little one had a great one, huh? A lot of presents for the little girl. We gave her this like a Barbie dream house thing or whatever. She was more interested in the wrapping paper than she was in the gift. Like she opened the gift and then she played with the wrapping paper instead of the gift. It really is amazing. I remember my little brother doing that all the time. And one time my mom went all over trying to find this present for him. She got him like 12 other different things. And when he opened them all up, he goes, I didn't get the thing I wanted. He was like
it's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. Kids are unbelievable. How about this? I said this earlier in the show. You'll appreciate this. So I'm at the office all day on Sunday. You are also, right? You work in this profession. That's the deal on NFL Sundays. I get home. So I kiss my daughter goodnight before she goes to sleep. I walk into her room and she looks at me and she literally goes, no, 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 and starts waving her hand like, please leave the room so I can stay with mom. Does that make you like or dislike my daughter, Pete?
Like her. I like her a lot more now.
She literally waved me off like I was like turning third base to run for home, and she was like, no, 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 please don't do this. That didn't make me feel great. But, such is life, such as being a parent. Let's start here, Pete, as we break down Week 17 in the NFL, heading into Week 18. Is any team in the NFL, Pete, actually good? And if so, which team is it and why?
The answer to that question is no, and they all have flaws. And we've been saying it for a long time. We text a lot back and forth, and we've been saying it for a long time. Nobody's any good. I think that's why it's going to be a great playoffs because it's so wide open. And I saw what you said about the Eagles. You'll take the Eagles because they have the best one unit of anybody on with their defense. But I think everybody's flawed. And you go across the board. 49ers defense, a mess. Do you believe in Sam Darnold? Do they run the ball well enough? And I know they ran the ball on Sunday against Carolina, but do they run the ball well enough? The Rams, the secondary has been a disaster since Quentin Lake went down. They've been giving up a lot of big plays. They have problems. And then you keep on going down the list. And every single, the Eagles offense, every single team, the Packers defense, the Bills defense, Every single team has flaws. Now, having said all that, the one team that might not have any flaws is Jacksonville. But the problem is, do they have anything that's great? And so when you look at it, that kind of evens that conversation out with them. So I think it's such a wide open tournament that anybody can win it, and wouldn't shock me to see any of the teams from any of the conferences make it all the way to the Super Bowl.
I want to start with the Eagles, Pete, and I appreciate the pop there. We tweeted out the social clip, and if you missed it earlier, I led the show by saying, I agree with Pete. Every team that's going to be in the postseason is flawed in some way, so I'll take the team with what I think has the best unit. That's the Eagles defense, and I'll take the Eagles to win another Super Bowl championship. And the thesis there, Pete, is not just that the Eagles have this great defense, which obviously they do, and a great coordinator in Vic Fangio, but the second part of the formula for Philly, and when they execute it, like they just win, is that they don't turn the football over. And they don't turn it over yesterday. And look, we can debate whether or not the run, pass offense in the second half is good or bad. They didn't turn it over. They converted Buffalo's one turnover into a touchdown that ultimately decided the game. And that's why, I don't think the Eagles are like the 2007 Patriots prior to Super Bowl 42 against the Giants, or like the 85 Bears, or the 89 Niners, or the 91 Redskins, or a historically great team. But I think if they execute that formula, I don't think they're losing to any team in the NFL right now. Do you agree or disagree with that thesis I have as we head into the postseason?
No, I think that they can win it all again. I really do. But I do worry about the offense. He's had 2 games where he hasn't had a completion in the second half of games. And I think one of our guys ran the stats and said it's the first time since 1978 that's ever happened. No passing yards in the second half. And to me, that's incredible. And so, yeah, I'm worried. I think the defense can be truly dominant. But I'm worried about that offense, and I think they need to get back to, Barkley carried 9 times in the second half or 8 times in the second half when you had a lead, and I think that's something they got to lean on more. But you're right, their defense is truly dominant. Fangio calls a great scheme. It's hard to move the ball on them. They can get pressure up front. The guys in the back end can cover, but they got to do more on offense. And look, the first round game could be Rams at Eagles if things play out. That's going to be a tough out for both those teams right away. So, are they beatable? Sure. Can they make the run? Absolutely.
Let's stay in the NFC here, Pete. We've got on Saturday night the NFC West Championship game for all the marbles to be the number 1 seed in the NFC in the playoffs as the Niners host the Seattle Seahawks. Now, these two teams played back in Week 1. I bet Seattle, and Jake Tonjes had Sea of Hands game part 2, caught a ridiculous touchdown from Purdy at the end. Seattle probably should have won that game. Am I annoyed I lost my bet? You're damn right I am. San Francisco is about a 1.5 point home favorite. And Pete, I said earlier in the show, I like Seattle in the game, not because I trust Sam Darnold. I don't think this Niners defense is any good and will hold the Niners back when it matters the most. And I think that starts coming up on Saturday. Where do you come down on San Fran hosting Seattle for the number 1 seed in the NFC?
My thing comes down to, I don't believe in the Niners defense, but do I believe in Sam Darnold in the big moment? And I do believe in Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's playing great football. I think the offense is playing outstanding. But do I believe in Sam Darnold in the moment? And the answer to that is probably no right now. He's going to have to prove it to me. And I know people will say, well, against the Rams, he made the drive in overtime. But he was bad for most of that game. And so I'm worried about that a little bit. He threw for 150 yards on Sunday. They did run the ball better. And remember, this is a team that wants to run the ball. They lead the league in rushing attempts. That's what they want to do, even though they haven't been great at it up until Sunday when they actually ran the ball well against Carolina. So, I get it. I understand why you say you lean to Seattle. I love their defense. They're nasty. But I also think this 49ers offense is playing at really a high level, and it's going to be tough to challenge them. And so ultimately, for me, it'll come down to, do I trust Brock Purdy more or do I trust Sam Darnold more? And until Sam Darnold shows me that he can do it in the big moments, I'm going to lean to the 49ers.
One of the reasons why I think Pete is one of the best at breaking down the National Football League, watches a ton of film and breaks down games, not just from and I'll use narrative, which is a word that people don't like, but I think he's really good. I think I'm good at it too, but from a schematic perspective as well. And Pete, I guess my last question on Niners Seahawks, I think it sets up as such an interesting schematic matchup, right? Between Mike McDonald, who's been called the McVay or the Shanahan of defensive coaches, against Kyle Shanahan here, right? And we did see McVay and the Rams put up a ton of points on the McDonald Seahawks defense a couple Thursdays ago. How do you see that matchup going, right? McDonald v. Shanahan. Who do you give the edge to? And if the Seahawks can slow down this juggernaut Niners offense, how do you think it happens?
I give the edge to Shanahan because, again, he's done it in the big moments. And so far, Mike McDonald has not. And it's going to be one of those games where he's going to have to do it in the big moment. I love what they do on defense. I think, with Lawrence and Williams and Murphy, by the way, should be in the Pro Bowl. He's played that well on the interior. They get after it up front. I think their linebackers you can expose them a little bit. And I know Ernest Jones, people love him, but I think the other guys, you can expose them in coverage, and that's where I think they'll go. I think they'll attack that second level a lot, and that's what the 49ers do. That they're good at you going one way and flowing back and throwing back against the grain to the other way, and I think that's what they'll do in that game. This will be Kyle Shanahan at his best. And by the way, if they win the game and they end up with the number 1 seed, there's no way in hell he shouldn't be the coach of the year. You played all those games without Purdy. You've been down Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, the 2 stalwarts of your defense. The other night, they have 5 stars, 5 legitimate stars, and Purdy's pushing there, but he's not there. But 5 legitimate stars. 4 of them were not in that game after the first quarter. Trent Williams, no. George Kittle, no. Nick Bosa, no. And Fred Warner, no. The only one who was there was McCaffrey. And that tells you how great a job that Kyle Shanahan has done. So I think he's the coach of the year. I think he's going to put that on display with his ability to call plays and make it easy. He will take advantage of fast-flowing defense and get them moving one way and throw back the other way on Saturday night.
I was going to ask you about Coach of the Year, and Pete is an awards voter. Shanahan plus 150 about right now. Mike Vrabel is a small favorite in the market. And I think we can say with some confidence here, if the Niners win, and you have to consider the game as well, like the Patriots are going to play in like a pretty meaningless game. They've already won. They're going to try and win to get home field advantage, but that's going to be a game with a lot of games surrounding it. This is a showcase game coming up on Saturday for Kyle Shanahan. If the Niners win and beat the Seahawks and get the 1 seed and win the division, I think it's over, Pete, and I think he will win Coach of the Year. So for people out there that like San Francisco in the game, that's an interesting way to bet it, right? Because San Fran is a minus price on the money line, and Shanahan plus money right now at BetMGM. You better you bet. Westwood One Sports. Day 1, show 1. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's never won the award. I mean,
which is
think
wild.
About that for a second. He got Jimmy Garoppolo to the Super Bowl. I mean, he's never won the award. It's incredible. So I do think if he wins that game, he has a real shot to win it.
And the one that people will say maybe he should have won was in 21 when Brian Dable won for the Giants, and now Dable's out of a job, and Shanahan might win in 2025. You better you bet here on Westwood One Sports. My last question, Pete, on the NFC. I think the Bears are a year early, and I don't even mean that as an insult. Like, their defense stinks too, kind of. Like, what's the ultimate upside this year for the Chicago Bears in like 30 seconds, and then we'll get to the AFC?
A championship game. I don't think they can get to the Super Bowl. But I'm with you on their defense. They don't rush the passer well enough, and we saw that, against the 49ers and even against the Packers last week. They don't rush the passer, and if you can't influence the passer, it's going to be tough to win in the playoffs. So I would say the best case scenario is to get to the championship game.
Yeah, I agree with you there on the upside for the Chicago Bears. All right, let's go to the AFC. We started this interview, Pete, talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, who win yesterday on the road in Buffalo. I'm curious the prism that you view Buffalo's loss through. I look at it and say, like, yeah, if Josh Allen makes a better throw on the 2-point play, the Bills win the game. Maybe a different conversation today. I think they were very lucky to even be in that position at the end of the game. Couple miracle catches from Shavers, one from Brandon Cooks, a questionable DPI on Quinyon Mitchell. I'm not saying the Bills are dead, like they have the best quarterback. I don't know if I feel great about Buffalo coming out of that game. How do you view right now, Pete, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills in the AFC?
Well, I think you come out of that game, you can look at it this way. For the first time, their defense actually looked good. Or is that a byproduct of the Eagles' offense being that bad?
Well, which do you think it is? Because I think it's like a fun chicken or the egg question.
I thought the defense played much better. I thought that some of the bigger interior players actually got pushed and played well against the run for the first time in a long time, and that matters. They get pushed around in the run game, and it kind of demoralizes that defense. So I think they were better against the run, which guys like Walker, even Mathis, those guys played much better on Sunday, and that's important for them. So for me, I come out of that game, I'm not worried about. People worry about the Bills' offense. I think the Bills' offense will be fine. I really do. That's a good defense. Like you said before, in the early part of the show, that might be the best unit in the playoffs. So it's hard to move the football on them. You got to be patient against them. You got to not make mistakes like they did. But I think defensively, you come out of that game and you say, okay, look at the second half of the Eagles. They didn't do anything. And that's a good sign for the Bills. So they do have the best quarterback in the AFC when they get going, and he can take over games in the postseason. We've seen him do that before. They can run it with Cook. And if that defense can get close to playing anything like they did on Sunday, I think they can be a real threat. They're the one team, I think if you're sitting there at 3 and 4 and whatever, 2, you don't want to play them. They're the one team you do not want to play.
They have the best quarterback with Mahomes not going to make the tournament. There's no question about it. Just another, like a blanket statement that I'm going to make here, and curious your opinion on it. And look, I'm acknowledging the Bills have the upside to win the Super Bowl, right? Because they have the best quarterback. But I look at two teams, Pete, in the AFC as teams the Bills would potentially like to avoid, potentially on their way to Super Bowl 60. Kind of built in the same mold as the Eagles, but probably not as good. Be the Texans and the Broncos, right? Two teams with a good enough defense to play man and man up on these slow wide receivers that they have, turn Josh Allen into Superman, rush the passer. I think, and Houston obviously already beat them once this year. I think those teams would give the Bills trouble if and when they play in January. Agree or disagree with that? Bills v. Houston, Bills v. Broncos. Who would you like in those hypothetical matchups?
Well, you're right that they're bad matchups for them if they play the style of play they played the last time they played the Texans. And the reason I say that is, and I think we saw that play out the other day with the Chargers. When you play the Texans, you can't go in there, and I know Cook can run it and just line up and play, run the ball football, and because you're going to go 3 and 3, and then it's 3rd down and 4, and you got to go make a play against those pass rushers. Can't play that way. Same thing when you play the Broncos. You got to dictate tempo to them. And you saw Jacksonville go out to Denver a couple weeks ago. They dictated the tempo to the Broncos and won the game. If teams go against the Texans and the Broncos, don't allow them to put you in obvious passing situations. Throw on early downs. The Bills did not do that the last time they played them, and they destroyed them up front and brutalized Josh Allen in that game. But if you go into that game and say, okay, this is going to be a Josh Allen game. We'll throw it around. We'll play free and loose. We will dictate tempo to that defense. I know they're great on defense, but don't allow those pass rushers to be in obvious pass rush situations, and then you pound that running back. That's the way to attack them. If they do that, they can win that game. If they do that in Denver, they can win that game. If they go in there and play like they did against them in the regular season, which I thought was a terrible plan, then I think both those defenses can get all over him.
You mentioned Jacksonville, Pete. Might be the most complete team in terms of lacking flaws, but might not have the high-end upside to get to a Super Bowl. It feels like right now the most likely first-round matchup in the AFC for the Bills is on the road at Jacksonville. If that's the matchup, my expectation would be the Bills would be favored by less than a field goal, maybe like in between 2.5 and 3. We'll see how Week 18 goes. Who do you think would win that hypothetical matchup, assuming health for all the principals, Bills at Jaguars?
That's a tough matchup for Jacksonville, I think. I really do, because I think their strength of their defense is to be able to get some pressure because they're not great on the back end. Guys on the back end have played well in Jacksonville. Montaric Brown, Jerry and Jones, losing Jordan Lewis is big for them. The safeties are just okay. So if you can protect up front, you're going to be able to hit some throws against them. And they play a lot of zone, so you can hit some shots into the middle of the field and take advantage of that. So I think that's a bad matchup for the Jaguars defense. But the flip side of that is Jacksonville can run the ball. And, the way Lawrence is playing and spreading people out, with that guy being such a great play caller, I think they'll be able to score on the Bills too. That might be a game that gets a little loose and you get some points in it. But that's a bad match. I think that's a bad matchup for Jacksonville in terms of playing Josh Allen.
Got two more quick ones for you. Can be 30 seconds per. Are we sleeping right now on Drake May and the New England Patriots?
Well, I don't think anybody's sleeping on him. I think they might be sleeping on the team, and they shouldn't be, because they got a great coach, they got a great offensive coordinator, they got a young quarterback who's making plays all over the field, and they got a bunch of veteran defenders, and they have corners who can match up. So I wouldn't be sleeping on them. Would it shock me to see them go one and done in the playoffs? No. Would it shock me to see them rip through and maybe even win the whole thing? Absolutely not. We don't know what you get in the postseason with a first-time quarterback and a bunch of young players. And until we see them, we'll have no idea. But I can see why you would think people would be sleeping on them.
And let's close with this, Pete. The LA Rams kind of feel like a forgotten team at this moment because we haven't seen them play since last Thursday night in Seattle against the Seahawks. 7.5-point favorites tonight in Atlanta against the Falcons. Total of the game is 49.5. Do you have a thought on how this game is going to play out? A player you might like to exceed expectations? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. What's your thought on Rams-Falcons in 30 seconds to close?
I think the Rams are going to be focused here after being off after that game. That's a tough. They dominated that game in Seattle, should have won the game, and now you go out on the road, back-to-back road games, but you get a little rest, and I think that's good for them. They needed it. The offense will get going again. Look, the Falcons' defense can rush the passer, so that's always concerning, but I think there's going to be ability to take some shots. I think the Rams will score. I think the Falcons will score some, too. I don't like the way the back end of the Rams secondary is playing, so you'll see some plays down the field for the Falcons, too. So look for points in that one, too, Nick. As far as a player, look, when in doubt, always go with Puka. He's going to put up the numbers.
Yeah, I kind of like Puka also. I'll give you my bets at the end of the show. My friend, thank you very much for coming on the maiden voyage here in the new time slot. I'll wish you a Happy New Year. I don't really mean it, but Happy New Year, my friend. Thank you.
Happy New Year to you, and congrats on the new time slot, and keep it rolling, Nick. I know you will.
Our friend Pete Prisco from CBS Sports on Twitter at PriscoCBS. Really appreciate the time from Pete. A lot of good stuff there. It does feel like when it gets to it in the playoffs, right? And the reason why I kind of pause for a second there is I'm thinking about it in the moment where I don't think the Bills are the best team in the AFC. Denver's probably better. You can make a case Jacksonville's better from top to bottom. But the Bills have the great equalizer, like number 17. And when it comes down to it, it's what I said earlier, right? Like you're just firing off takes like, Jaguars are going to beat them. But would you bet on that? I don't think I would. The more I think about it, maybe that was a Super Bowl preview that we saw yesterday on the road in Buffalo, won by the Philadelphia Eagles. Want to get a YouTube comment in here, and then we'll take a quick break. We'll do some college football on the other side. Thanks to our friend AMW. Trust the Bills over the Eagles. The Bills adjusted better in the second half. It would have been a different result had it been the playoffs. I am not so sure about that. I do think the Eagles are better than the Bills, but I appreciate that. And just again for everybody, we are figuring out all the YouTube stuff. If you watch the show on YouTube and on Twitch, we are going to have way more interaction on the new version of the show. We will also have like a call and text line that will roll out in the weeks to come as we get into the new year. A lot of really exciting stuff here. You bet on Westwood One Sports. On the other side, we'll turn our attention to college football. And tomorrow, going to be a college football heavy show, getting you set to bet the college football playoff quarterfinals. But next, we'll talk about Michigan, stepping in it in a good way with the hire of Kyle Whittingham, and breaking news out of Ohio State that I will think it will impact the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve against Miami. College football talk coming up next here on Westwood One Sports.
We'll be right back with You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
All the bets for tonight coming up to close the show. Rams and the Falcons, Monday Night Football. Pete Prisco just joined us from CBS Sports, said he likes Puka Nacua tonight. And really, how could you not? Puka's yardage prop tonight is 109, and this is just how insanely good Puka Nacua is. Puka's yardage prop tonight is 109.5. And I looked at it earlier this morning and last night and said, yeah, I don't think it's high enough. And it's 109.5. As Puka tries to catch Jackson Smith and Jigba in the Offensive Player of the Year race. We could talk more about that coming up tomorrow on the show. But Puka, 109.5. We'll give you all the side thoughts, all the total thoughts, all the prop thoughts for Monday Night Football, the Rams and the Falcons, to close the show. I also have a bunch of thoughts on tonight's card in the NBA. Now, bit of a different animal, candidly. We'll get to college football in a second. Bit of a different animal, like giving NBA thoughts, rather, in the morning, as opposed to right before tip-off, right before the games tip at 7 o'clock, the old time slot, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, because we have all the injury information, for the most part, on the old time slot. So a little bit more guesswork involved here. You'll see how I plan on doing this here. I have thoughts on at least 3 NBA games for tonight, and I will give those to you to close the show. We'll do some college football now. And again, a lot of college football coming up tomorrow. We'll have great guests. I'll give you my bets for all the college football playoff quarterfinals. But let's start with the University of Michigan, who have been in the news recently, obviously, for all the wrong reasons. Lose to Ohio State in the regular season finale, and no shame in that, losing to Ohio State, who's been the wire-to-wire, the national championship favorite. But you never want to lose to your rival, right? And then, I don't mean to yada, 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 to use a Seinfeld line, everything that happened with Sharon Moore, but we don't have enough time to get into it, and I want to put a positive spin on this. So obviously, all of that, very much hashtag not great, or as former Yankees manager Joe Girardi would say, it's not what you want. It's done for now, and we'll see what happens, how that plays out legally for former Michigan coach Sharon Moore. Well, let's spin this forward now for the University of Michigan, one of the blue blood premier programs in all of college football. Michigan hires former longtime Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham as its next head coach. And I want to be crystal clear about this hire of Kyle Whittingham for Michigan. Michigan significantly upgraded at coach. Accidentally. I feel like if Sharon Moore doesn't get in trouble, Sharon Moore's the coach of Michigan next year. And I'm not insinuating Michigan did this on purpose. I'm not insinuating there's any malfeasance at all. But let's be real. From a sports perspective, and that's what we care about, right? We love watching games. We love sports. We love to bet on games. We love this stuff. From an on-field perspective, you cannot argue that Sharon Moore is a better head coach for Michigan than Kyle Whittingham is. If you stack them up head-to-head, there's no way Sharon Moore ever gets the job at Michigan when Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL if Sharon Moore wasn't on the staff previously. Never would have happened. And I'm not trying to, say Sharon Moore can never coach again. Who knows if he will. I have no idea. But, there's no question here who the better coach is. And Kyle Whittingham raises the floor and the ceiling for Michigan way more than Sharon Moore did. Michigan stepped in it here. This was an unfortunate event that Michigan has turned into a positive. When this happened, we talked about it live on You Better You Bet in the old time slot. What's Michigan going to do? Lane Kiffin's at LSU. All the hires have been made. Matt Campbell's at Penn State. Here's Kyle Whittingham. It's brilliant. It's brilliant for the University of Michigan. Michigan's basketball team is awesome, and now the football team obviously has high hopes as well. And for Kyle Whittingham, just briefly, and I don't think anyone necessarily cares about this part of it because it's Utah to Michigan, Whittingham upgraded to. No offense meant to Utah. Utah as a football program is not Michigan. That is not an insult. I have said, the sky is blue. It is a statement of fact. Kyle Whittingham is 66 years old. So I don't think Kyle Whittingham, I don't think it's crazy to say Kyle Whittingham's not going to be the coach of Michigan for 10 years. That's not going to be what this is. But if you're Michigan, given the turbulence that this program has undergone, and look, they won the national championship. They won. So you'll take all of that. They had lost, it would have been one thing. Jalen Milroe doesn't fumble that snap in the Rose Bowl. Michael Penix converts a couple, fourth downs in the national championship game and Michigan doesn't win the title, then yeah, like none of it was worth it. All the money, all the suspensions, the black eye, none of it's worth it. But because they won, it's obviously all worth it. All the turbulence is worth it. All the Connor Stallions nonsense, all worth it because they won. Now, Kyle Whittingham is going to be entrusted with like steering the Michigan boat out of the turbulent water. Like getting this team back to, I'll use the word respectability, and I don't even mean it from an on-field competitive standpoint. From kind of like an off-field perception standpoint. And I'm not trying to steal this from someone that tweeted it. I thought about it just now, and I don't remember who it was that tweeted it. My apologies. Someone, if you search it, you'll find it. That Kyle Whittingham on Instagram follows like 11 women. Half of them are related to him, and they're all fully clothed in all their pictures. So we're already like a step ahead of where Sharon Moore was at for what he was doing on social media. This is a home run for Michigan and a home run for Kyle Whittingham. Provided, because there is a but attached to this, provided that Bryce Underwood stays. And if you don't know who Bryce Underwood is, you should, because you're listening to the show, which means you're a big sports fan, and thank you very much. And you're watching the show, You Better You Bet with Nick Costos' debut voyage, Westwood One Sports, in the new time slot, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern. Follow me on all social platforms at the Costos, TheKostos. Bryce Underwood, his upside is to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. It's like an alien. True freshman last year for Michigan. Obviously, Michigan loses to Ohio State, loses to USC, loses to Oklahoma throughout the course of the regular season. Bryce Underwood's awesome. And it feels like, and things can change, obviously, and if Bryce Underwood bounces and says, you know what, like I don't want to play for Kyle Whittingham, I can't imagine that would be the case, because I think like Whittingham's going to use Bryce Underwood's legs a lot, and he's going to, like, I think he can thrive. Like Tyler Huntley did at Utah once upon a time, and Bryce Underwood's upside is way higher than that, I'm just saying. It feels like Bryce Underwood's going to stay, and that can change. But it feels like for the moment, he's going to stay. And if that's the case, I don't know how you spin this to a negative for Michigan. And then they can build for what's going to happen post-Whittingham. But they got their title with Harbaugh. They got the title with Sharon Moore. You deal with some nonsense for a championship any day of the week. You can never take down banners or steal Heisman trophies, even though the NCAA will try. Michigan won that national championship. It was all worth it. And I think they nailed it with this hire of Kyle Whittingham. Been teasing some news out of Ohio State. So the Buckeyes, the reigning defending national champions. The only team that I've bet to win the national championship this year in college football, had them last year, and it was pretty good. Hope it's pretty good again this year. Ohio State has a pathetic effort on offense in the Big Ten title game against Indiana. And if you, the listener, and you, the viewer, and if you're watching on YouTube and you disagree with me, you can let me know. That's okay. If you're like, well, Indiana and the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza and Kurt Cignetti and the defense had something to do with that, I understand that thought process. Tough to disagree. Also, I bet on Ohio State in the game. So I'm probably going to come at it more from a negative Ohio State perspective. I did not like the offensive game plan, and I didn't like Ryan Day's decision-making in some of the big spots. So it goes noted that Ryan Day is going to call plays now for Ohio State moving forward. He's going to call the plays in the Cotton Bowl coming up on New Year's Eve against Miami. Brian Hartline has been the offensive coordinator. He took the job at South Florida, and he's kind of been managing 2 roles, right? And Ryan Day is going to call the plays now in an effort to kind of spur this offense, and Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, etc., on this loaded Ohio State offense. And if you're someone like me who has Ohio State to win the national championship, and you think that's the Buckeyes' ultimate ceiling, or like you like them in this game, or you'll like them up until the Natty, I think this is good. Like Ryan Day, prior to being a national championship winning head coach, is a badass offensive coordinator and play caller. Like really good, to the point that like an NFL teams have sniffed around him at points. Like you can't be a curtain jerking jabroni play caller and have the NFL interested in you. Not that the NFL can't be wrong, but generally it probably speaks a little bit well for you, right? If that's going to be the case. So as someone who has Ohio State to win the title, I really like that Ryan Day is going to be calling the plays. But as far as the Cotton Bowl goes on Wednesday night, on New Year's Eve, I do think Ohio State's going to win. So don't confuse what's going to come next. I think the Buckeyes are going to win. I think Ohio State's going to win the national championship. I think they're going back to back. Shout out to a lot of Drake references on the show today, including our friend Drake Toll and Drake May and Aubrey Graham. You know. I do think Ohio State is going to win another national championship here and go back to back. But I think Miami's going to cover the spread. We got a low total. Ohio State's a 9.5-point favorite. This was 10. I agree with the move down from 10 to 9.5. I agree with that move towards Miami. Total's 42.5. Not a ton of points expected in the game, obviously. I don't have a strong read on the total of the game. Probably lean towards the under, honestly. Now, I don't think Mario Cristobal is a good coach in-game. He's a great recruiter. He is not a good in-game coach. He's just not. He just isn't. You saw it on full display against Texas A&M, and you got a great defensive effort from Miami to win that game in College Station to advance to this game. But Miami has got dudes on defense, like athletes that can compete with Ohio State. Reuben Bain, born in darkness. He's going in the top 10 of the NFL draft, rushing the passer for Miami. Like, they have legitimate NFL caliber players. And I think Miami can keep this game close. I don't think Miami will win. Carson Beck's probably due for one brain dead mistake in the game. But I really, really like Miami to cover the number. And if you, the listener, you, the viewer, if you have not bet this game yet, and you kind of agree with me that Miami can at least keep the game close, let's wait. See if it goes back up to 10, if there's money on Ohio State leading to the start of the game. And maybe you can get 10 Miami plus 10. Like, the worst thing that happens is goes down to 9 and you bet Miami. There's no real difference between 9 and 9.5. So wait to see if a 10 pops. We'll talk about it on the show tomorrow. I do like Miami plus the points against Ohio State on Wednesday night. The other bet that I like quickly, and we'll do this more in detail tomorrow on the show, in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. I think Ole Miss is going to keep the game close against Georgia. Now, this point spread was 7.5, then it was 7, now we're 6.5. So there has been some action here coming down on Ole Miss, and I agree with that directionally towards the Ole Miss Rebels here. 7 is the number I want with Ole Miss, and that's a bet that I like in the Sugar Bowl. That's the final game on New Year's, Ole Miss and Georgia, where it seems like people have kind of crowned Georgia already as the winner of this game. And I feel like if people don't like Ohio State, some like Indiana. I feel like a lot of people like Georgia to even beat Ohio State. And it feels like we're sleeping on Ole Miss a little bit. And that Ole Miss kind of got its win with Lane Kiffin now in Baton Rouge and Pete Golding, the interim coach, and his terrible haircut. Not saying he's not a good coach, it's a bad haircut. They got their win, they blew out Tulane, and that was their moment. Ole Miss has got really good players, and I like the quarterback a lot, Trinidad Chambliss. And Ole Miss probably should have beaten Georgia when they played earlier in the regular season. Georgia with some late-game heroics there. So 7 is the number I want with Ole Miss. We'll see if it pops in between now and Wednesday night. More college football tomorrow. You bet here on Westwood One Sports. But to close on the other side, today's edition of You Bet on Westwood One Sports, we're going to give you all our bets for tonight. That's going to be side total and props for the Rams and the Falcons on Monday Night Football. I do have a bet on the side. I got a prop thought as well. Looking forward to that. And an anytime touchdown bet at a long price. And I'll also run through tonight's slate in the NBA. A couple games have caught my eye in the association that I can't wait to share with you. And a special surprise as well will join us next as we close up shop. Maiden voyage of You Bet on Westwood One Sports with me, Nick Costos, presented by BetMGM.
We'll be right back with You Bet on Westwood One Sports. This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
All right, some thank yous to dole out before we wrap up the magnificent Football Monday edition of You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports with all our bets for tonight in the aforementioned world of sports. One wonderful guest joined us today, Pete Prisco, NFL insider, analyst, and host for our friends at CBS Sports, on Twitter at PriscoCBS. Absolutely love Pete Prisco. Bill, I feel like Bill Zimmerman, our executive producer, and you, our listeners and viewers, if you're been with the show for some time, you know I love to involve the crew in the show. First show today, kind of like introduction to me on the new networks, went a heavy me. The crew will be on the air on the show. We look forward to that. Bill Zimmerman is our executive producer. Bill, I want to make sure that I get all the names here. Should probably thank a lot of people for a show. Bill is our executive producer. Tyler Morales, who doesn't know this, he's been on You Better You Bet since day one. He can never leave. Like he will never leave You Better You Bet. He's strapped to the Wagertainment chair in perpetuity. Tyler Morales is our technical director. Downtown Mike Brown remains our video producer on the show. And our new engineer, the great Kenny Henderson. Dan Turner filling in as well. Not filling in, but Dan is part of our crew. I'm sorry, I'm getting used to this here. I am a creature of habit, a bit robotic. I got to get in the habit of getting all these new names in. Dan Turner doing a great job as well, helping with YouTube. Yeah, we need an official title for Dan. Like our YouTube consigliere. Is he like Mike's consigliere? Like is Mike's number 2? I don't even know if that's true. We will figure that out. So thanks to our crew. Thanks to Mitch Rosen. Thank you to Andrew Williams on the Odyssey side. Thank you to Bruce Gilbert and Armin Williams, not to be confused with Andrew Williams, on the Cumulus and the Westwood One side, for making this possible and giving yours truly this opportunity. I sincerely appreciate it. John Lund follows me here on Westwood One Sports. We look forward to that. And coming up later tonight on Westwood One Sports, you know, I may have changed time slots, but some things remain the same. Because joining us here to close the show for a few minutes is one of the hosts of BetMGM Tonight. He will be joined starting tonight by our friend Pat Boyle, weeknight 6 to 11 p.m. Eastern. You know him, you hate him, maybe you love him. The great Brad Evans at Noisy Huevos on social media. Brad, welcome back to the show. Happy opening day here on Westwood One Sports. Hola, amigo.
Hola, amigo. Thanks for having me back, brother. And it's a tremendous honor to be on this brand new platform. Quite the blowtorch, my man. I'm going to blow out the ears of America coast to coast.
6 to 11 p.m. Eastern, weeknights, Brad Evans and Pat Boyle on BetMGM Tonight. I went a little long there, and I have to get to all my bets here, Brad. So I'll just promote one more time. BetMGM Tonight, they're going to be live betting games, which is awesome. They're going to a ton of sports talk on the show. Check it out, 6 to 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're new to Brad, if you haven't heard Pat before, they are sensational. 6 to 11 p.m. Eastern, find it in podcast form as well. Brad, what is your one best bet for the Rams-Falcons coming up tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the pride of Michigan. I think Blake Corum is going to splash 6. Give me him in the anytime touchdown market. I grab it at a plus 135. The ATL has been woeful in the trenches this season. Since week 10, they're just number 21 in rush EPA defense. They're giving up 4.34 yards per carry that span on the year. They've given up 21 touchdowns just to the running back position. And Corum has scored in 4 of his last 4 straight games. So a guy that's getting significant role. And I think he's going to get a ball in the belly and cross the chalk. So at plus money, yeah, I'll get seduced by that juice at plus 135 there at BetMGM.
Brad, have a great show tonight. Maiden Voyage, BetMGM tonight, 6 to 11 p.m. Eastern with Pat Boyle. And I'll catch up with you hopefully tomorrow. We'll see.
Bijan Robinson, 50-plus receiving yards at plus 125. I'm out!
Follow Brad on social media at Noisy Huevos. I am on social media at the Costos, TheKostos. All right, bets for tonight. Let's please, Kenny, drop the dope-ass beat. And if you're a new listener or viewer to the show, why are they calling it the dope-ass beat? It sucks. That's the joke. It's terrible. Also, we'll play it forever. BetMGM players will receive a Pro Football Same Game Parlay Boost token. To use the token, add a Same Game Parlay wager made up of bets from a pro football game to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win your wager that was made with the Same Game Parlay Boost token, you will receive extra winnings and unrestricted bonus dollars. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app, visiting BetMGM.com, and please gamble responsibly. Couple bets for tonight in the NBA that I like. And, I'm not making these until later in the day because wonky things happen every day with the NBA injury report. And if you bet, you know what I'm talking about. But 3 games I'm monitoring. Number 1, I can't believe I'm saying this. The Brooklyn Nets are playing good basketball right now. The Nets have won 3 straight and 4 of 5. They're plus 4.5 against the Warriors tonight. Golden State on the bit of a skid at the moment. Nets plus 4.5 against the Warriors. Magic minus 1.5 on the road in Toronto against the Raptors. Anthony Black, 38 points as the Magic beat the Nuggets over the weekend. Give me Orlando to win in Toronto tonight. RJ Barrett, doubtful in that game. And I think De'Aaron Fox is going to miss tonight for the San Antonio Spurs. I kind of like the Cavs, but need a little bit more information on that game. NFL tonight, Falcons and the Rams on Monday Night Football. We'll pass on the prop king. I'll give my props out just here with this music bed, guys. I bet Atlanta plus 7.5. Second straight road game for the Rams, stewing on the Seattle loss. I think the Falcons will be able to move it on this Rams defense. I do think the Rams are going to win, but I like Atlanta to cover. Falcons plus 7.5. I agree with Pete Prisco. Puka Nakua's yardage prop is 109.5, and it's somehow too low. Puka Nakua over receiving yards. And with Kirk Cousins throwing a ton to Kyle Pitts, let's play the other tight end that gets targeted by Atlanta, Charlie Werner, Bjorn's brother. Charlie Werner, anytime touchdown for the Falcons. So Falcons plus 7.5, Puka over receiving yards, Charlie Werner, anytime touchdown. And that does it for the maiden voyage of You Better You Bet here on Westwood One Sports. I will catch you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. John Lund coming up next. Until we meet again, dear listener and dear viewer, I'm Nick Costos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, and the absolute very best of luck.
That was You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.